Hello, welcome to another lesson from the OpenSSL Cheat Sheet. In this lesson, we're going to explore the commands available to extract specific pieces of information from certificates and CSRs. We're starting in a directory with 5 files. This file, rsa-csr.pem, is the same file we used when we were exploring how to match certificates or CSRs to private keys. These 4 files are the public certificates for Amazon.com, Facebook.com, Google.com, and Wikipedia.com. I downloaded these certificates so we can explore their contents using the commands in the OpenSSL cheat sheet. You can download all 5 of these files and follow along with this video, or use any other certificate and CSR you have access to. These files are currently in PEM format. This is what PEM formatted files look like. PEM files are what we've been using throughout this series and are the most common file format you're likely to come across. To look into the contents of these files, you'd want to use one of these inspection commands. We've used them both before in this series. They simply convert a PEM formatted CSR or certificate into human readable text. To quickly show them to you again, we'll start with the CSR inspection command, which is OpenSSL REQ, which stands for rec as in certificate signing request. Then you specify the file we mean to inspect. Then you specify no PEM formatted output, and then you ask for the output in text format. This will give you this output. Notice this is the text version of the file rsa-csr.pem. I'll also show you the command that we would use to view the contents of a X509 certificate as human readable text. That command is OpenSSL X509. Then you specify the file we mean to inspect. In this case, we'll look at Wikipedia certificate. Then you specify no PEM formatted output, and then again you ask for the text version of this file. If I hit enter, you'll see this right here. Now, you'll end up using both of these commands pretty often. They are a simple way to view everything inside a CSR or a certificate. But there are times when you only need a specific piece of information from the certificate. That is the purpose of this next box right here. Sometimes it's easier to run a single command that gives you exactly what you need instead of using the -text argument and having to sift through the entire certificate contents. To make it easier to see what we are extracting, I'm going to copy and paste Wikipedia certificate into Notepad. This way, when we use a specific extraction command, I'll show you where what we just extracted exists in the full certificate. Now, the purpose of this lesson is merely to show you how to extract information from a certificate. We're not going to go into too much depth about what each piece of information inside a certificate is. If that would be interesting to you, however, we do pick apart all the contents of a certificates and CSRs and keys in the Practical TLS course. You can get more details at pracnet.net/TLS. Either way, let's start with our first command. Now, you'll notice the structure of this command is familiar. In fact, it's the same command we've used before to view the certificates in text. Except instead of using the -text argument, we will ask for the specific piece of information that we want. For example, one piece of information you can extract is the validity dates, and you can do that using the -dates argument. Notice here, I was able to extract the expiration information about this particular certificate, and it matches what we have right here in the full certificate content. Another piece of information you're often going to look at when looking at these certificates is the subject field. That's this field right here. To extract the subject field from a certificate, you would use the same command we've used before, but you would specify the -subject argument. If I hit enter here, you'll see I've now extracted just this section of our certificate. Along with the subject field, you're often going to be looking at the issuer field. That's the field which shows you who issued this particular certificate. If I hit enter here, we'll see that this certificate was issued by Let's Encrypt, and you can see that also right here. Now, the cool thing about these commands is you can also combine arguments. For instance, what if I wanted to see both the subject and the issuer? Well, what I can do is simply add both arguments to the same command. And notice here, I was able to extract both the issuer field and the subject field from this particular certificate. So that's a quick rundown of how you would ask for specific pieces of information from the certificate. And here's a list of all the different items you can extract from most certificates. But sometimes you'll ask to extract information that doesn't actually exist in your particular certificate. For instance, if I asked for the modulus value of the Wikipedia certificate, you'll see that I get this error. It's telling me wrong algorithm type. If we take a look at the actual full certificate for Wikipedia, you can see that the public key being used for Wikipedia certificate is an elliptic curve public key. And as we mentioned before, elliptic curve keys do not have moduluses. Moduli? Do not have a modulus. If we look at the Amazon certificate, however, notice that it does. Amazon is using RSA keys in their certificate, and therefore there is a modulus value. But there is a way to extract this information from Wikipedia certificate. Notice, one of the things you can extract is the public key. If I use the same command we've been using and ask for Wikipedia's public key, I would get something that looks like this. Now, of course, as you can see, this will extract the public key in PEM format, but in theory, this output reflects exactly what you see here. And we can actually verify this using a command we showed you earlier when we looked at the OpenSSL pkey utility. I want to show you something cool you can do with all of these OpenSSL utilities. We've typically been feeding into each utility a file using the -in argument. But if I omit that argument, OpenSSL will expect the PEM file from standard input, which means I can simply paste a file into one of these commands. Let me show you. First, since I'm about to paste a public key into this particular command, I need to specify the -pub_in argument. Then I need to specify that I don't want to see the PEM formatted output, but I do want to see the text formatted output. And if I enter here, you'll see it'll simply wait for more information. This is where I can take the public key in PEM format and simply paste it into this command. If I enter here, you'll see it'll interpret all of that into human readable text. And you'll notice it does indeed match what we see in Wikipedia certificate. So that's how you would use the -pub_key argument to extract the public key in PEM format and then use the pkey utility to convert that into text. Either way, that is a basic rundown of how you would use this command to extract specific pieces of information from certificates. I'm not going to show you each of these arguments, but at this point you understand how the command works, and you can explore each of these outputs yourself. Next, I'd like to show you how to extract specific extensions from a certificate. Notice Wikipedia certificate has a bunch of information right here. Then it's followed by a bunch of extensions. The extensions section of the Wikipedia certificate covers all of this right here. There is a lot of information contained in the extensions section. What I want to show you next is how to extract specific extensions from an X509 certificate. Nearly every certificate you come across today is going to have many different extensions. In the Practical TLS course, we unpack all the extensions you'll come across and why they exist. But again, in this lesson, I just want to show you how to extract some of those extensions without having to use the -text argument and looking at the entire certificate contents itself. But if you want a deeper dive into what these extensions are, definitely check out the Practical TLS course. Either way, the command to extract extensions from a certificate starts off very familiar. After the -noout argument, you would then specify the -ext argument and then the name of a particular extension you want to extract. For example, a common extension you want to look at is the subject alternative name field, and you can extract that field using the string subject alt name. If I hit enter here, you'll see all of this is the content of Wikipedia's subject alternative name, and you can see that mimicked right here. The subject alternative name field allows a single certificate to protect multiple domain names. For example, Wikipedia certificate protects wikivoyage.org, wikinews.org, wikidata.org, and a bunch of other domain names. Another common extension you're going to look at is the Authority Information Access extension. You can extract just that extension from a certificate using the string authority info access. This will give you this information, which was replicated right here in the full Wikipedia certificate. Now, the Authority Information Access extension is involved in certificate revocation, which we unpack in great detail in the Practical TLS course. Another section that is also involved in the revocation process is the CRL, or the Certificate Revocation List. And you can extract the CRL location using this argument. Now, in the case of Wikipedia's certificate, nothing showed up. And if we look at the text certificate, we can see that Wikipedia certificate actually doesn't have a CRL distribution point. Hence, we got no output and no error when we ran the command. The Facebook certificate, however, does have a CRL. And we can view that by running the same command as before, except supplying the Facebook certificate in the -in argument. Now, just like in the previous section, you can also extract multiple extensions in the same command. You just need to supply them both and separate them with a comma. For instance, since the Authority Information Access section and the CRL section both have to do with revocation, you might want to see both of them at the same time. Well, you can do that by simply supplying both strings in the same command, separated by a comma. If I enter here, you can now see that in Facebook Certificate, we can see both the CRL distribution point and the Authority Information Access section. So that's the demonstration on how to use this command to extract specific extensions from X509 certificates. Now the last command in this section, right here, will actually extract every extension from a certificate. What it's actually doing is simply using the -text argument that we've looked at before to extract everything from a certificate, and then using the Linux sed utility to cut off everything between this line and this line. This will effectively show you every single extension in a particular certificate. Now, when I was creating the OpenSSL cheat sheet, I went back and forth whether this command was worth including, but since I had a little bit of vertical space on this particular page, I went ahead and included it for your convenience. Either way, that wraps up everything I wanted to show you in this lesson. In the next lesson, we're going to be looking at file formats. I'm going to show you how to tell what format a file is in, and then we'll explore the commands you would use to convert files between various formats. But that wraps up this lesson. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.